What's up, everybody? Welcome to State of the Nation, the Athletics Raiders podcast. Jimmy Durkin and Vic Tafer hanging out in the Jim Otto room here at the Raiders headquarters in Alameda. And Vic is getting ready to head to South Beach. He did not leave on Tuesday as he was trying to. Yeah, a couple extra days at home, spend some time with the kid. And
That's what I was doing. I was bonding.
All right, well, Raiders 0-2 heading to Miami to face the 2-0 Dolphins. The Raiders' first three opponents, have yet to lose a game, right?
Yeah.
Both teams they've played are both 2-0, and facing another 2-0 opponent. I guess you can use that to put a little perspective into their start. And the Rams, at least according to the Athletics Power Rankings, Rams are the number one team in the NFL. And that means everything.
I'm not sure it's close. I think they're the best team by a lot. So I think definitely you look at that first half against them, take some positives from that. And last week they were winning except for the last, 6 seconds of the game. So I think they could be very easily one-on-one and a lot more positive in the direction they're going than they are now.
Yeah, I think the only team that you could really argue for the number one spot along with the Rams, is the Jaguars coming off of a pretty good beat down to the Patriots. But yeah, I mean, that's what's always so hard about overreacting to the start of a season because, you don't know how good a team is. 2016, they had the early loss to the Falcons, and the Falcons were not a team that we thought very highly of that year. Right. And it was like, it was a 35-28 shootout loss. Matt Ryan, Derek Carr going after each other. And we're like, that doesn't look great. They had just won in New Orleans, and now you thought they're going to get off to a 2-0 start. Right. And then that's a Falcons team that goes to the Super Bowl. Yeah. That Matt Ryan wins the MVP. Things can change. And I think we all knew that the Rams were a good team coming in. I don't think, and we still don't know if the Broncos are any good, but they can play defense, and they've got more competent quarterback play than they've had in a few years.
Yeah, as the great Jack Del Rio always said, it's all fluid. Everything's fluid. Things change.
Week to week league.
Week to week league. But I think they're going to win this weekend. I think the Dolphins to me are not as good as the record indicates. Mm-hmm. The Raiders we just talked about are not as bad as their record indicates. So I think it's a good matchup. Obviously, the heat is the factor. I mean, they've not done well in Miami historically. They won last year. That game doesn't really count. It was a night game. But when they played there early in the mornings, they've wilted every single time, going back to the famous Rolando McClain game when he was supposed to be suspended, but Hugh Jackson didn't want to play Joe Blackstone, so he played Rolando McClain right after that incident happened, and they still lost. So I think it's a bad place to play, especially this time of year in that time zone. But, it is what it is. You play when you play, so.
Well, looking ahead to this game, Jared Cook is off to a nice start to this season. He's been obviously had the huge game in the opener with 180 yards, a little bit quieter game on Sunday, but he does lead the team with 229 receiving yards, 13 catches, and he's going to a place, Miami. He played well there last year, 126 receiving yards in that 27-24 win on Sunday Night Football. Do you expect him to be a big matchup again on Sunday?
I do. I think for the first time in his career, he kind of bounced around a little bit, and he's always had flashes before, but never really on a consistent basis. But I think this is probably the first time he's the focal point of the offense. I think he's as a lead role. I think Gruden kind of fell in love with him early on, saw that he was faster than he thought he was, better hands than he thought he had, bigger than he thought he was. I just think he realized this guy should be a key part of the offense. I think whereas last year he had some big games, he'd disappear after that. I think it was more about scheme than him actually not playing up to the level he had been playing at. So I think it's a good spot for him. I think that you mentioned it's a good matchup. The Dolphins don't do well against tight ends usually, even this year. So I think with Jared and Amari Cooper, that should be enough to get the offense rolling again.
Yeah, Amari Cooper, another trip back home for him. Second straight year playing back in his hometown of Miami. So I'm sure he's fired up. He won't have his fellow Miami boy out there on the field. No big Johnny Holton touchdown this year. You're gonna miss that dance. You loved his touchdown dance last year, whatever that was.
Whatever that was. It was probably inappropriate, but it cracked me up. But it's funny because he talked yesterday about Johnny Holton's now a cornerback in practice, and I guess Johnny Holton's talking smack to Amari Cooper.
Should be.
He should, yeah. They haven't gone head-to-head yet, but Amari's waiting for it. I can't. Unluckily, unfortunately for us, we can't watch those, all the practices. I can't watch that matchup up close, but I'm sure it'll be fun to watch.
cool thing is too bad Johnny Holton wasn't on the active roster for this game. This would be kind of a nice meeting of three guys from the Coconut Grove area. I got a chance a couple years ago to go down to Miami and visit the Coconut Grove area, which is where Amari grew up. It's where Johnny Holton grew up, and that's where Frank Gore grew up. And I went to this youth center that Johnny and Amari had both gone to. Frank didn't go there, but he was right from the neighborhood, and I guess they still would have a lot of those guys would have events there in the off season, and so there's all three guys right there from that neighborhood, and at least for Amari and Frank Gore, a cool chance for them to match up on Sunday, and probably the last time that they'll get a chance to match up against each other, but that should be kind of fun.
Last time, and Frank Gore's going to play till he's 50, right? So I'm sure that guy's incredible. I mean, John Gruden talked about him being one of his favorite players of all time. I think he's top 10 guys that he loves to watch play and just really brings to a team, and the leadership and the ability to adapt to different offenses every year. So, but for me, Frank Gore is that's such a great storyline. But for me, the key matchup for the Raiders is actually the other guy.
Yeah,
Kenyon Drake is very dangerous, both out of the backfield and in terms of the ability to break off big runs. So I think if they can stop him, they'll be in good shape.
Yeah, but it is a nice matchup with two old guy, future Hall of Fame, I think we can say, running backs in Frank Gore and Marshawn Lynch. You wrote on Wednesday about how the Raiders need to get him the ball more, that he looks like the beast mode of old, and it's time to his numbers a little bit skewed, only 3.7 yards per carry, but he's had a couple of big runs called back that always affect that. But as you wrote, it's time to get him the ball more.
He looks good. I think he looks like, he's not as fast as he once was. The burst is not, but it's definitely better than it was last year. I think he's definitely worked hard in the offseason to get in better shape, and you see like the two runs you mentioned, the one was called back and the one that almost had a touchdown. The guy kind of grabbed his foot at the last second, but I think he looks good, and I think the line needs to do a better job getting him some more ahead of steam going into these big runs. But I think the plan, ideally for them, is to have him start the games off. Yeah. You kind of hold on to your lead, and you kind of whatever, and then you kind of use other guys to kind of give Marshawn a little bit of a blow. And then at the end of games, you bring him in to close it down, kind of just to control the clock. So I think so far Doug Martin's not been, I think, what John Gruden's advertised him to be. He hasn't been like a game breaker yet. A guy's going to show the old spark, but there's still hope. And I think Jalen Richard's more of the pass catching guy. But they need someone to kind of take over the second and third quarter carry so Marshawn can be fresh at the end of games.
Yeah, it's a tough spot because we've seen in the past that when there were games where with Latavius Murray was out, or last year when Marshawn got suspended, where now it's chance for DeAndre Washington, Jalen Richard. Here you go. You're starting. You're gonna get a big role. And those guys have never performed well when they've had that big role. They've had big games. Both of them have big games in the past as a second guy. Can somebody kind of reemerge again as that guy that can kind of take over the middle of the game? I don't know. It's definitely a question mark with those guys.
Yeah, and Doug Martin's from the Florida area. That's where Gruden got to know him pretty well before he signed here. So I think maybe he's used to the weather. Maybe that's a home field advantage. But he's the guy. This is what John Gruden brought him here for, to kind of give Marshawn a blow at times, that change of pace option. So I think I'm sure he got like a handful of carries last week. I'm sure he'll get a handful more to kind of show what he can do and maybe give Marshawn a chance to really take over the game late.
We talked, obviously about Amari Cooper having a big game on Sunday, and I had a chance to ask Greg Olson on Thursday, just about, to me what I noticed is that in the first game there's a lot of off coverage on Cooper, and they didn't really do a good job of taking advantage of that by getting him involved early with short passes. On Sunday, obviously they did, and Olson kind of backed that up that. Yeah, we do need to get Amari Cooper involved in the game plan early, and I think it kind of goes without saying. It's a pretty obvious statement to make, but with guys like that, with your star playmakers, you got to get them involved early because that's just how they become bigger threats when they get the ball in their hands.
Right. Again, to go back to my guy Del Rio, it's all fluid because Derek Carr was talking this week about how he and Amari Cooper, the communications at an all-time high. They're like talking in practice, and they're just kind of playing things out mentally to come true during the games. But just a week ago, it was the opposite. Like those guys only had one catch, and everyone's like, "Hey, man, what happened to Amari Cooper?" So it just shows you how things changed in the span of 1 week. But I like where Carr's confidence is at. I think he's going to be fine. I think Cooper and he definitely should have these games more often where they just kind of almost lock in on him like he used to do with the crapshoot. I think Mari's that good where if you 3rd and 2, you can advertise, "Hey, I'm throwing to that guy," and he'll still catch the ball. So I think they should have that kind of connection going forward.
That's why when everybody was kind of bagging on Carr after the first game for not getting the ball to Amari, I kind of put the onus on the play calling. To me, that was the bigger issue. Everyone's okay. Coop was open. Hey, why wasn't he throwing to him? And yeah, some onus goes on Carr for not really looking his way. But Derek, we know what we know about him is he does what he's told to do.
Right.
And when he's told, that's what we're focusing on. That's what he's going to do. So to me, that game one, not getting the ball to Cooper, that was on Gruden. That was on the game plan. I think Amari Cooper's a guy that I don't care if the matchups are better for your tight ends, you're better for your running backs. You find 5 targets a game for him where we're going to throw the ball to Amari Cooper. That's where it's going.
I agree. I think you mentioned the play calling. I think if you looked at that game on Sunday late, you can question some of the play calls late, like the 2nd and 9 run to Doug Martin.
Yeah.
I think that was a bad call. And then the 3rd down play, that slant that wasn't long enough or far enough. It was obviously a quick.
Yeah, it was a hot read.
So I just think that, and Gruden he made a joke about that the other day. I think he knows that some of those play calls are not great. I think he's also a work in progress. So I think all he can do is to try to have things build up and get to a better stage, both play calling and with Derek in terms of his ability to make plays.
Yeah, and I know, because they can say, okay, well, the reason that play to Bryant didn't work was because it was a hot read, but the question becomes, why are you running a 3rd down play where Martavis Bryant is your hot read?
Right.
He's a guy that, has you've openly talked about how he hasn't picked up the playbook enough, how he hasn't been out of practice enough. With the game on the line, I don't think you want that to be your hot read. For he to be the guy that you have singled up on that side.
I agree. I think it's also a sign that they do view him as kind of a game breaker. That's why they brought him here. I think they'll see more of his role this week. I think they're going to have some more plays for him. I just think that I'm sure Gruden was excited about having him in the game plan last week and was hoping he would break one, and he'll get more chances on Sunday.
Looking over at the defense, talked with Paul Gunther on Thursday, and the idea of this is a team that obviously we know the pass rush has been an issue, and his teams he had some defenses in Cincinnati that were pretty good, but also didn't really get after the passer. I think last year his Bengals defense actually tied the Raiders for a total of turnovers. They weren't a high turnover, high sack team. But he feels like you can still have a good defense without that. He pointed out, and I haven't looked at the numbers to confirm this, that a lot of the teams that do have high sack totals aren't playoff teams, aren't very good teams. Yes, you do want to get after the passer, and I think a lot of coaches will point out that they care more about the pressures, just total pressures, than they do about the sacks, because pressures can lead to overthrows and interceptions and all that kind of stuff. But what do you think? Can this defense be? Certainly, I think through 2 weeks they've already been better than they were last year. But can they be as good as you need them to be if they can't get after the quarterback?
No, they're going to need more. They're going to need more out of them. If Fidel Brown gets another shot this week, or maybe Shalik Calhoun gets another chance at some point, and then obviously Bruce Irvin has to step up and be more of a pass rusher than he has been so far. So I think Guthrie's trying to say the right things and try to temper down all the there's a lot of passion now about the lack of sacks and the reason why. I'm not going to say why, but I just think you can't play good defense without pressure on the quarterback. And you can get the sacks are not the end all and be all, but you need pressure, and it's not been enough at all in the first 2 weeks.
So he's trying to talk around that. His boss, John Gruden, is not. He's just making himself go viral day after day after day.
It's funny, I think John, he especially on Sunday after the game when he was asked about the pass rush, he paused a good 5 seconds, so he knows. He's like, am I really going to say this again? And he's like, you know what, screw it. I'm not going to think about this. I'm just going to say it. Let's get over with. So I think people think he's putting his foot in his mouth or he's trolling us, but I just think he's resigned to it is what it is. He traded Khalil Mack that can't rush the quarterback, and people are asking about it. So, like yesterday he said that it's hard to find good pass rushers. Well, obviously you had one, so it wasn't that hard for you. But I just think he's in a tough spot. He knows it. He made the trade. Monday he keeps saying we made the trade, but John made the trade. So I just think it's something you got to deal with until next year when you get that draft pick and you have something to actually tangible to hold on to.
When do you think is the time to stop asking those questions?
Well, I think it's now. I just think, it's tough when these media scrums come to. Like yesterday, was the guy's first time out here all year long, and I'm not sure what he was working on in his story, but he asked a very general pass rush question, like why is it so important? What does it take? And what's it take? And so I just think that I don't know what he was going for, but I just think that they're going to come from all different angles, TV or radio or print guys like us and internet guys like us. So I just think that at some point Johns has got, like I said, he got to punt. He's got, you know what?
This is not in his nature.
Yeah, we know where we are. We'll get better at pass rush. Next question. I just think that he wants to do it, and I think he's been close to doing it. But so far, he just says, you know what? I'm just too tired to think of a clever way out. I'm just going to say it. And I think that so far it's been good for all the clicks and the blogs and the talk shows on ESPN that can just kind of kill him for it. But it is what it is right now. You can't change it.
Yep. All right, we will get to our predictions in a little bit, but are you ready to answer some questions?
Let's do it.
All right, State of the Nation Mail. As always, you guys can hit us up on Twitter using the hashtag SOTNMail or go to the comment section of our previous post. And we'll start with Kevin B. Hey, fellas, 2 questions. Are we ever going to see Carl Joseph? And is Jordy Nelson going to be the punt returner, or was that just a one-time thing? I'll start off with Carl Joseph.
Yeah, you give Gunther's answer, and I'll do the little subtitles at the bottom. Okay, I'll translate what his answer means. So we asked Gunther. Someone asked.
So I asked Gunther, what does Carl Joseph have to do to get on the field? Is there something you're looking for, or is it just a matchup thing? And Gunther's, I don't have the direct quote in front of me, but it's like, Carl just needs to keep doing what he's doing. He's just got to keep working and just keep doing what he's doing. And he did say he does think that they'll get him on the field a little bit more this Sunday. Kept pointing out, in some of the heat conditions, we need to get more guys out there. But basically, he's just got to keep doing what he's doing, and you might see him out there a little bit more on Sunday. Translate.
Subtitles. No, he's done. I just think he's not been in their plans. He's not going to be in their plans. I think they think he's too small. Didn't make enough plays when he had a chance to play the last few years. And I think at camp probably didn't make enough plays. I just think Eric Harris. They love Eric Harris, and he made 3 plays last week. I haven't seen Carl Joseph make. He made open field tackles. He seems like he's got a good knack for picking up on one of the quarterbacks to make a play. He has a good reaction time, so he'll play more and more. And if he plays more and more, that's just further behind that Carl Joseph falls. I just think I don't know. At some point, I think he's going to be. Right now he's like a full-time gunner. I think, and like your 4th or 5th safety.
Has anybody started calling Eric Harris Potato Chip or anything? That should be his nickname, shouldn't it?
That's pretty good. Yeah, I wonder if he's made too sensitive. He worked pretty hard in that factory. He had some rough days, but that's actually pretty good.
Yep. All right. Let's see. Next question here from Rock Thunder Punch. This is the clickbait of the day. Are the Raiders interested in pursuing Colin Kaepernick, as his lawyers seem to suggest? And is Mike Freeman correct in asserting that Kaepernick would beat out Derek Carr in 45 seconds?
I'll do the first one. So the first one, I clicked to that TMZ thing. I'm a sucker. He didn't really say much. He's kind of he's this old dude, just kind of he was out just talking, shooting the crap. And I just think if Al Davis was alive, Al Davis is not alive. So I just think it was a guy popping off. And if TMZ comes to you and you want to be important, you got to say something that will get some attention, and he did. So I can't imagine that's even remotely in their plans.
And the thing is, to say, well, if Al Davis was still alive, if Al Davis isn't running this team, so I know that makes an automatic connection to, well, if Al Davis was still alive, he'd be on the Raiders. But does that mean he would be on the Raiders now? No. And I know Mark has. Mark Davis came out and supported the Kaepernick Nike ad, so people connect the dots. But if this team was still rolling out Connor Cook and EJ Manuel as their backup, and I'm not saying I'm not saying AJ McCarron is so.
AJ McCarron's the man.
I think AJ McCarron is a little bit better thought of as a backup. I don't know if he's really any better, but
they traded a pick for him, so they're vested.
The Browns nearly gave up a second and a third, I think, or something last year for him.
The Browns are idiots. Yeah. If you watch Hard Knocks, I don't know how they can take a.
All right, and on to the second half of that. Is Mike Freeman correct in asserting that Kaepernick would beat out Carr in 45 seconds? Love you, Mike, but sorry, that's just
proven false.
In the real world,
it
was funny that. That's that's a different, beat. Would he beat him out as a starter? Isn't the same thing as beating him in a game. But it was funny that somebody immediately pointed out that, Kaepernick couldn't beat Carr when he was a rookie with no supporting cast. And I know Mike replied that was an absurd statement. And, no, Carr did actually beat him as a rookie with nobody. I mean, Colin Kaepernick would not beat him out. I mean, Kaepernick hasn't played in 2 years at this point.
Does he still want to play? I mean, I think I love what he's doing. I think it's great. But I just wonder if he wants to play. I mean, that's a hot topic, but I think he's doing important stuff. I'd imagine if you asked him point blank, hey, do you still want to play in the NFL? I'm not sure. He's like, yeah, let me do it. I think he's on to bigger and better things, and good for him.
Yeah, if you go back to Colin Kaepernick when he was at his peak with Jim Harbaugh, could he come in and beat out Derek Carr? Maybe, yeah. I think that would be a good battle. At this point, it's been so long since he's played. He wasn't playing very well. I mean, his last year in the league wasn't terrible. I mean, he did, was fairly efficient. His numbers were not bad, and that was a really bad 49ers team. So, I mean, obviously the guy's still a good enough quarterback that he should be able to get a job in this league. But
one more on this, because John Gruden's calling the shots here. And someone asked Gruden at the owners' meetings in the spring about Colin Kaepernick, because they wanted some clicks. And he said Colin Kaepernick could not beat out Blaine Gabbert. So that shows you where his thoughts are. In terms of that, it's not a fair statement, but that's what he said. That's what he thinks. So in his mind, Kaepernick's not an option.
No.
So I think
that squashes it immediately, because even if Mark Davis said, hey, I want you to bring in Kaepernick, John Gruden just kick it into the curb. Mark Davis cannot tell John Gruden anything to do. I mean, he basically gave all power away in that relationship the way that he went about hiring him. Yeah,
when you give a guy a blank check and say it's the happiest day of your life, then you definitely, the other guy is pretty secure in whatever he wants to do.
Yep. All right, from Chucky is back. Should the fans be worried with Jordy Nelson? Wasn't he signed to replace Crabtree?
I think a little bit. Yeah. I mean, I know it's early, but I think coaches and players will say, no, he's fine. And Amari Cooper kind of said it's his turn to this week to shine, because it was Cook and Cooper. Now it's in Jordy's time. But I'm not sure he looks that nimble. I mean, that was the big talk from the training room that, he's faster than he was last year. He's going to bounce back. But I don't really see it yet. I don't see him getting open or being an option in the red zone yet like Crabtree was. So, I mean, I think they really wanted their hopes was like an even swap. They would take a trade-off, one for the other. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure Jordy's up to that right now.
Yeah, I'm not sure what exactly Crab's numbers through the first two games are. I know in week one he had a nice touchdown catch in the back of the end zone, and we know he can catch touchdowns. He's a good red zone target, and that's they could use that right now. But all right, next question from Mike Gorelli. Who do you guys think gets released when Darryl Worley returns? And we spent a lot of time off air kind of trying to debate this and figure this one out. And it's not a clear and obvious question, but you did have one name as a potential in mind. Aggregators are going to get going on this one again.
Cool off, aggregators. All I said was that I don't think they're going to cut. If you look at their current defensive backs groups, there's no one there they're going to cut. Except there's one name, I guess if you had to, that'd be the guy. Before I say that name, I'm going to say they're more likely to cut a defensive lineman or maybe even a receiver. But if you had to cut a guy from the DB group, I think it has to be Carl Joseph. They're not going to cut Nick Nelson because they think he's a guy for the future. They're not going to risk losing him on waivers. Leon Hall plays way too much. So does Gilchrist and
not cutting Conley.
Not cutting Conley or Melvin. So there's no one else to cut. Eric Harris.
Rogers Cromartie did not play any defensive snaps in his last game.
They like him. They've been talking to him up. I think it's a matter of time before he gets more of a role. So he's definitely above Carl Joseph in the coaching staff's eyes. So I think you look at that group. Eric Harris, you mentioned, is coming on. So there's no one else. So if it is strictly a numbers game, and we only have this number of spots for DBs in our team, then yes, maybe Carl Joseph might be in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, you're cutting yourself to three safeties. There's been talk that Rogers Cromartie could play a little safety, but
Leon Hall, who I sat down with today for a big conversation piece that I'll run tomorrow, he played safety the last couple of years. Leon Hall can also play safety. So you got two guys who can play safety in a pinch. But yeah, I think ideally, going back to what I said earlier, I think they'll probably cut a D lineman or maybe an O lineman or a receiver. They'll cut somebody else.
Yeah, smart money would be on one of the guys they've brought in recently. Jonathan Hankins, Clinton McDonald. McDonald played a lot, right, on Sunday.
He did. So I think you maybe have the edge over Hankins if that was where you're looking at making a cut. But Also, going back to Carl Joseph, he's their full-time gunner now. So you're like, Bisaccia's lost enough gunners already. I'm sure at some point he'll put his foot down, like, that's it, no more of my gunners. Right now it's Rogers, Cromartie, and Joseph. So I think, I just can't. I can't. I mean, it is tough. It's a very, we talked about, yesterday I was thinking about it. It's a very tough question. It's not an easy decision who you're going to cut in that spot.
Speaking of gunners, one of their week one gunners, Keon Hatcher, did get picked up Lions practice squad. That was felt bad for that guy having to go.
I really did. It was just because he played so well in that game, and then he earned his spot. And for Gruden to say, he beat out Martavis Bryant, and I talked to Hatcher that week. The little story on him, he was really thrilled. He's been working hard all last year, practice squad. And thought he had made it. I mean, you never want to assume anything or get too comfortable, but for a second there, he kind of exhaled, like, you know what, the coach said some really nice things about me. I was going to be a gunner. He was a gunner for that first game. It's like, I have a role. So I think he definitely. I'm sure he probably celebrated in that week, but then just like that, it was over. And he got cut from Martavis, kind of floated around for a week and without a job. So it must have been a really hard week for him. So I'm happy for him that he got another chance to keep playing.
Yep, definitely. That was good. All right, on to the next question here. And all right, from Casey Smith. Do you think Junior Galette was serious? And if so, do we sign him? Now, we're going to assume that the reference here is obviously as Gruden went viral with the pass rushers are hard to find. Junior Galette tweeted, somebody's like, you need to call him, and he's like, I've been texting him every day. I'm buying it. I'm buying it that Junior Galette is on Gruden, and I know he was in here for a visit, and I believe that kind of the deal there was that point offered a veteran minimum. His agent gave him some advice that he maybe didn't like at the time. That liked at the time, didn't like it so much now that he thought he could get a better deal, and so they didn't sign, and nobody else has come calling with a better deal. So he's sitting out there, and I think he would definitely love to come to the Raiders now.
I'm still getting to know Gruden. I'm still picking up on his little quirks and the way he thinks. But I think at this point, I'm going to guess if he offers you a job and you say no, I think you're pretty much dead. I think you're done. I don't see him keeping your name on his list. I think he's crossed off, and he'll do whatever he can to make Fadal Brown and Slick Calhoun get better and to earn a role before he calls you again. That's just my early take. Maybe desperation sets in next week and they do it, but. Obviously, Junior Galette has a record, a track history of both on and off the field, but on the field of some production. So I think he might be a guy who can help you out a little bit. But I just wonder if that's the way Gruden operates.
Yep. All right, a couple more questions here from Pork Chop. Plenty of praise so far for Colton Miller's play, especially in pass protection. But how much of that is attributed to Carr being almost too quick in his release, especially in Week 1?
I think it's a factor, but also I'm gonna give him the props. I think he did a nice job. There's a few plays I remember where he got beat and didn't cost them, but I just think it's a lot to ask of a young man. Yeah. I was not very high on him early on, but I think he's worked very hard, and I could definitely see why they picked him. I thought it would take him a while in terms of the strength to be able to pull this off, but so far he's done a great job. So I think you can always nitpick and say that it's because of this or because Carr gets rid of the ball too fast. But I say enjoy it. There's enough going wrong with this team right now. Enjoy one of the bright spots. Don't pick it apart too much.
Yeah, Ted Nguyen did a good film room piece this week. Took a look at Colton Miller, especially his Week 2 play. And, yeah, there definitely are plays where Miller gets beat, but it doesn't impact the play. Carr's not getting sacked because of that. And, it's great if you're a rookie, if you can have those learning experiences where, okay, I wasn't good there, I wasn't perfect there, but it didn't cost my team, and now I can learn from it. So right. I think that's what you're hoping for. That's why a quarterback like Carr is probably good for a young tackle like Colton Miller to learn how to protect, and we'll see how much better he can get by the end of the year.
Yeah, if I'm hitting my jumper, don't say it's because the guy wasn't guarding me well enough. Just give me my props for hitting the jumper. That's what I say.
Yeah. All right, final question here from Oliver. Does this start change your guys' record predictions?
It does not. I do believe I had them going 1-2 out of the first 3. I had them beating the Rams and splitting the next 2 games, so that still can hold. I think my prediction was 7-9. I think that still sounds good to me. I think they're definitely better than they've shown. Still have some holes. I think injuries are going to be key. The veteran guys they have, if they hold up, they should be okay as far as being competitive, but I'm not sure the depth is quite there to withstand too much. So I think, it doesn't affect my prediction at all.
Yeah, I gave him 8-8 with a 3-1 start. Had him winning the opener, losing in Denver, winning in Miami, beating the Browns. So It will. I mean, I think I got to tame it down to 7 and 9.
Yeah, come on down. The water's warm. 7 and 9. Come on, jump in.
Maybe 6 and 10.
Whoa, hey, whoa.
But yeah, I mean, 8 and 8, I think would be a pretty high leap of faith at this point. But we'll see if they can.
The next two are huge.
Yeah, I mean, if they have to get to 2 and 2 to have any prayer at 8 and 8, obviously.
They do, and they have to. This is for their morale. I mean, I just think
they really need to win in Miami, and they need to win handily in Week 4 against Cleveland.
Yeah, the Browns aren't bad defensively. The Browns have some talent on defense, so I'm not sure how bad they can beat the Browns. But
I think you need a big defensive performance there. You need to hold them to 7 to 10 points, maybe get a couple picks, a couple sacks.
Their tackles were terrible, so definitely that would be your pass rush's breakout game. I think that maybe Calhoun gets his 3 stacks there, which becomes a household name. But
practice squad, right? Or no, they signed him. Yeah, they signed him again.
He's back.
He was there. I got some people mad when.
Oh, you know what? That reminds me. That goes back to what we're talking about. He's a guy that you can cut for Worley. Because
there you go.
You've clearly seen he can be waived and brought back in. And so
there we go.
So he's obviously a guy who's not on our team's radar.
Yeah, we were looking at the depth chart, which was printed Monday, and he's not on there.
No,
so
Shalik's the guy.
Shalik's the guy.
Go back.
Solved it.
Go back to the first segment, and then
that's no longer a tough question. We agonized so long over that,
and the answer is right in front of us. Yeah.
we came around to it.
Sorry, Shalik. Don't, if you listen to this, I'm not endorsing this, but I'm just saying it's a possibility.
All right, before we wrap up here, time for predictions, and Vic, I'll let you go first.
Are the Raiders winning? Do we do scores or just have them winning?
Well, you're going to do a score when you type it up for our Saturday post.
You go first. I'm going to write a score down.
All right, I have my score. I already did that. I already added that into the file here. So 28-24 Raiders. I know we talked about it on the post-game show on Sunday that, okay, this is a chance against a defense that isn't nearly as good as what they've faced the last 2 weeks. And now, I mean, the Dolphins, it's hard 2 weeks in to go too much into the rankings of where they are. But, I mean, they are fourth in scoring defense, giving up 16 points a game. But, they played the Jets, who had a big week 1 and then kind of came down to earth with Sam Darnold in week 2, and then they had a weird game in the in the opener that lasted 7 hours against the Titans. But so they've allowed 16 points per game. They're 17th overall in total yards allowed, but just overall they're not the same kind of dangerous defense that the Rams. The Rams are right now allowing the fewest points in the league and third fewest yards. Broncos are top 15 in both those categories. So I think this is a chance where the Raiders offense can get going a little bit. They built on some good things. They had a good first half against the Rams, really a good, most of the game against the Broncos. They just needed a couple more plays to go their way. So I think it's the day that Derek Carr maybe throws 3 touchdowns, Marshawn gets another one, and they win at 28-24.
I got 31-20.
Wow, winning going away.
Yeah, and I think the Dolphins are not that good. I think
so we can lock.
It was our second lock in a row. Last week, if you cashed in, you're welcome. We both gave the Raiders +6, I think it was last week.
Yeah.
Now they're +3, so those are our second Vic and Jimmy lock of the season. Go ahead and bet appropriately and accordingly. But I just think that the Dolphins are not that good. I think they're overrated. I think their pass defense is not very good. And everyone's like, oh, Cameron Wake. I mean, Cameron Wake is 85 years old. I mean, he's good still, but he's not that guy. He's not that guy anymore. So I just think they'll be able to pass the ball. Should be able to run the ball. I think Marshawn will have a nice week. And I'm going to say Martavis Bryant has a touchdown this week. I think that make the comeback party official. And I think that'll be nice for him. He's pretty excited about having a role here and all the crap he went through. I think he's looking to celebrate in the end zone. So that's my pick.
And what's your prediction for you in South Beach?
A lot of fun, not much sleep. It's a good thing.
Honestly, last year you got the Sunday night game, so you were able to go, and that was following the whole week in Florida, right? So you basically got get into Miami on Friday night with an off day Saturday to do nothing, and then a whole day Saturday where you didn't have to be at the stadium till probably 6:30 at night or whatever on Sunday. That was a good Miami trip for you.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I had a fun time. I definitely slept in on Sunday, but that's a great place. I love I love the atmosphere. I love the the scenery. I love the food. I love the music. I love South Beach. I used to live there when I was younger, a young man. So I always enjoy my time there. So definitely, I'll have fun. I'll be at the game. I'll make it to the game for kickoff. I promise.
Good deal. Good deal. All right. Well, we will talk to you post game on Sunday, and we'll see if our lock comes through for you again.
Merry Christmas.